42 wins, just 8 losses. The New York Liberty stormed through the regular season like a freight train. But now, the postseason presents their biggest challenge. Facing off against the Minnesota Lynx, a team they struggled against all season. History seems to be repeating itself, but this time, the stakes couldn't be higher. In Game 1 of the WNBA Finals, the Liberty led by as much as 18 points. Fans thought the game was over, but that's when everything began to fall apart. It all went wrong. They lost. How could this happen? And more importantly, can they recover before Game 2? Let's rewind a bit. The Liberty were dominant in the first half. Their offense was unstoppable. Fast breaks, clean shots, pinpoint passes. It was vintage Liberty basketball. By halftime, they were up by 18 points. And it seemed like a blowout was on the horizon. But then something changed. With 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Liberty still had a 15-point lead. But instead of stepping on the gas, they slowed things down. Have you ever seen a team go from dominant to desperate in the blink of an eye? That's exactly what happened. They stopped playing their game. They tried to run down the clock, but all it did was give the Lynx time to catch up. It's like they were running a marathon, then decided to stop and check their watch when they were just a few yards from the finish line. But this isn't a race where you can afford to slow down. The Lynx capitalized on every mistake. They ramped up the intensity on defense, making critical stops, and scored key baskets to close the gap. With just a few minutes left, the Liberty's once commanding lead was gone. Sabrina Ionescu was quick to identify the problem. She admitted that the Liberty slowed the game down too much, and in a post-game interview, she didn't mince words. But the real question is, why did they slow down? Were they overconfident, afraid of making mistakes, or was it part of a larger game plan that backfired? We'll come back to that in a minute. First, let's talk about what the Liberty need to do to avoid making the same mistake in Game 2. So what's next for the Liberty? According to Sabrina Ionescu, the adjustment they need to make is simple: play their game. Fast, aggressive, and relentless. That's how they dominated the season, and that's what they need to get back to. Sabrina knows this, she said. We just have to keep playing our style of play. That means keeping the tempo high, not slowing down, and forcing the Lynx to play catch up. But it's not just about playing fast, it's about playing smart. The Liberty need to manage the clock without losing their momentum. They need to use their speed to keep the Lynx on their heels. This is a classic battle of offense versus defense. The Liberty have the best offensive rating in the league this season, while the Lynx are a defensive powerhouse. But when the Liberty slowed things down, they allowed Minnesota to control the game. It's like a race car pulling over to admire the scenery while the competition speeds ahead. Not the best strategy, right? If the Liberty are going to win Game 2, they need to push the pace. And according to Ionescu, that's exactly what they're going to do. Sabrina is one of the most determined players in the league. She doesn't just learn from losses, she uses them as fuel. That's what makes her a leader. And that's why the Liberty have a real shot at turning this series around. But speed alone won't win this series. There's another challenge they have to overcome: mental toughness. And nobody knows that better than Breanna Stewart. But mental toughness alone won't be enough. The Liberty need to make one more critical adjustment if they want to win Game 2. Let's talk about that next. If you're loving this deep dive into the WNBA Finals, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more fans like you find this content. And hey, I want to hear from you. What do you think the Liberty need to do in Game 2 to bounce back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.